We're going live. Are we live? It's always difficult to tell. All right, there we go. There we go. Now it says I'm live. All right, awesome. So a couple minutes early, but that's all right. I think I'm excited for today's stream because for the first time in a while, we are doing a live feedback. So I had 8 of you this time reach out. Good solid number. 8 of you reached out with pieces of music that you want me to listen to live and offer feedback. Welcome, Alex. Welcome to the stream. Alex is actually the first one. You're the first one on here. Alex sent me this piece. Well, not this one, but Alex, you emailed me like a month ago? Super early from the stream. Just saying that you already knew I was going to do a stream like this again. You wanted to get ahead of the ball, right? So we got that. You were the first on the list. We got about 8 people, so we got a good amount of music to go through. And then got a couple announcements to do also while we're at it. So, actually, real quick, first announcement that I'm going to do, which, if you follow me on Instagram or if you pay attention to the posts I make on YouTube, you probably already know, but I am hosting the very first composing competition on this channel. All right, by popular demand. I've been getting requests for competitions for a long time. Basically, ever since Ryan Leach started doing competitions, people have been asking me, saying that I should do some too. So it took a little bit. I wanted to figure out something that I thought was going to be a bit more unique, something that kind of set this channel's competitions apart. And they'll probably develop as we go. But the first challenge is basically, since this channel focuses so much on emotions and music, this is a competition to see who can score emotions. So the first topic, we have a very vague prompt, but the prompt is the excitement of starting a new journey. All right, 90 seconds. There's a 5-second leeway. So if you go 5 seconds over, that's fine, but you can't go longer than 95 seconds. The main idea behind that, because you can't tell a director to lengthen a scene. All right, if you're working in a project and the director needs 90 seconds of music and you tell them, this one's closer to 2 minutes, is that going to work? The director's going to say, no. If you do that enough times, you're going to get fired and they're going to get a different composer. First place gets 2 free ebooks from my website and a private lesson, and second and third place get prizes as well. Instructions for how to apply. All right. I've got, if you look at the post, this is on Instagram, and there's another one on my YouTube community page. These are basically the grading, what the music's going to be graded on to find the winners, in the order of most to least important. Directions. All right. You have to be subscribed to the channel to participate in the competition. All right, your music must be 90 seconds long. Again, 5-second leeway, so 95 seconds at the absolute longest. If it's longer, you're disqualified. Upload your music to YouTube. It's going to be a YouTube challenge, so you got to upload it to YouTube. And you can either tag my channel or use the hashtag #TabletopMusicComp to help me find your video. And the final one, this is super important. Don't forget this. Step 4, in the description of your video, I want you to write a short description of what your strategies were. All right, what was your thought process? Because this is a purposefully vague description of the excitement of starting a new journey. So I want you to describe, what did that mean to you? What direction did you take that cue? And basically, what strategies did you use to help bring it up? Did you use an ostinato to create the feeling of excitement? Did you use major chords to create a sense of brightness? Did you use secondary dominance to create a sense of building tension? Whatever it is, write down, basically describe your strategies, sell the case to me, all right? Let me know what your ideas were and how you put them together. All right, submissions are due by the end of June 24th, because the last live stream of June, instead of being one of these feedback things, is going to be basically announcing the winners and going through the honorable mentions. What did you say? Winners will be announced on the 28th, and we'll go through their music live, as well, and my reasonings why they win and stuff. So I got a good question on YouTube about this competition, actually, asking if AI is allowed. Yes and no. Yes, you can use AI for inspiration. If you're trying to look for ideas for like inspiration for different things you can do, AI is an important tool. History has shown time and time again that artists and composers who refuse to advance with the new technology just are going to fall back. They're going to become relics of an old time and get forgotten. So you can use it for inspiration and research only. You cannot use AI to write your own music. If you use AI to write music, you are disqualified. This is a channel dedicated to learning how to write music. So if you want to use AI to organize your tracks, or you want to use AI to to create a story for you that you can use, like tell it to write a story about the excitement of starting a new journey and use that for your inspiration, go for it, but you cannot use AI to write the music itself. It would just go against the spirit of the competition. But awesome. So yeah, so you've got about a month. You've got about just under a month, say 3, maybe 4 weeks to get writing, to come up with some music, and tag me in it. I'm super excited. I'm really excited for this competition. I really, really am. So again, if you want to read through this and get more information, the post is on Instagram. It's also under the community tab on my YouTube page. But let's see, any comments before we get started? Nick, where do we post our songs to be reviewed? So if you're talking about the competition, the instructions are in the description. You're going to upload it to YouTube. If you're talking about these feedback reviews, I make posts about 1 week before each one. Typically, the very last live stream of the month is a live feedback stream. So follow me on Instagram. Make sure you've got notifications set up for YouTube, because I make a post that says, hey, now you can send me your pieces of music. It has guidelines into the expectations of what you're sending, because there are instructions. Your music can't be longer than like 3 minutes and 30 seconds. You have to have a specific request of what you want feedback on, stuff like that. But then you can just, once you've got the instructions, you can send me an email or message me on Instagram. Tends to be the way everybody does it. Another rule is it has to be a YouTube link or a SoundCloud link. I don't do downloads. I'm not getting links from strangers and then downloading it to my computer. I'm too broke to afford a brand new computer, right? So, welcome Shib Shankar. Is background video allowed? For the competition, yeah, you can use background videos. That's fine. It's a video. You can do whatever kind of creative things you want. Background videos from AI is also, I guess, if that's the question you're asking, that's allowed as well. Like I said, the main thing with AI is you're not allowed to use the AI to compose the music for you. This is the channel about learning how to write music, so it'll be against the spirit of the competition. Let's see, Jack, welcome Tamashi. Tamashi just submitted for this. If we've got time, I'll check it, but unfortunately the deadline to submit music for the review was yesterday. I always have the day before, that way I have time to put it on the list. If we've got time, I'll check it out. But thank you, Tamashi. You've actually submitted a bunch of pieces, Tamashi. I've done lots of stuff for it, lots of reviews. You've made good progress. Sir Kensington, I've never really done anything like this, but I think I might give it a try. Awesome. So yes, Sir Kensington, I recognize your name. You're on here. You were one of the people to submit right here. We're going to be going through that. I'm excited. Shib Shankar, can we get inspiration from other composers? Of course. Who was it? 2 famous quotes. One was by Stravinsky saying, good composers borrow, great composers steal. There's a very rich history of composers just stealing ideas from other composers. Whether one composer thinks, whether you're like, oh, I love the instrumentation John Williams used for this theme, I'm going to start off with a similar instrumentation. Or even if you just blatantly steal music. The Romantic period in music was filled with composers just stealing melodies and saying, this is awesome, this is my arrangement of it now. So that's fine. Erica, welcome. Tim, welcome. Sir Kennington, yes, wonderful. And Shib Shankar, yes, asked in the Discord. So welcome, everybody, awesome. So we got a good showing right now. Let's get started, shall we? Enough of my ranting and advertising. All right, so links to music. Alex Goodmanson is the first one up. All right, the request here. What mood and emotions do you get while listening to it? That's a pretty simple one. And are the composition / structure and melodies good? That's a bit trickier, because the question is, what do you mean by good? Are they catchy? Could they be improved? Things like that. So we'll see. I'm getting my paper ready to take notes while the music plays. And let's get started, shall we? Ooh. Lower the volume a bit. All right. Nice build. I'm liking this. Strong start. Sounded like it was coming to a natural end. I'm liking the shift. Here we go. This is beautiful. Nice. All right. Awesome. Alex, amazing. Congratulations. I do think that is a very Hans Zimmerian piece. For a couple of reasons. One, of course, is the atmospheric things like Erica threw in there. Atmospheric music is very, very Hans Zimmer-esque. But really what's going on is very much like Tamashi also mentioned, minimalism. Hans Zimmer is famous in film scoring for using minimalism. Film scores in general are very minimalistic. That doesn't mean that there's not a lot going on. That doesn't mean it's not complex music. Minimalism means that you're working with a very simple, minimal amount of ideas. That is very much what Hans Zimmer is known for. He will take very simple ideas and create beautiful, complex pieces of music out of them. So one of the tools that you've used in this piece is something called incremental complexity. All right, we've talked about this a couple times on different streams and lessons. So incremental complexity is a strategy that involves gradually adding layers to your music. As simple as that. Incremental complexity allows you to create novelty and development in your music without having to worry about changing the actual ideas. So this is something you do. You start with a single motif and you start repeating that motif over and over again. Just when it's about to get boring, you add a new one. You add a new layer, whether it's percussion or a counter motif or something. You add a new layer. And then, oh, that's cool. It keeps it going. And then just as that's about to get boring, boom, you add another idea. Or boom, another idea, boom, another idea. You keep adding on or shifting. Sometimes instead of changing an idea, you just add instruments. This is very common in film music because it's a very powerful and useful tool, especially without having to get in the way of things like dialogue and sound effects. Incremental complexity is a foundational stone for soundtracks in Hans Zimmer's music, like Interstellar, whatchamacallit, the one about like the dreams, Inception. I swear, I always forget Inception. But there's a whole bunch of movies. Once you're aware of incremental complexity, you start to notice how commonly it's used in media music in particular. Now, you asked for feedback. So, right now, the things that you mentioned, you were asking about the mood. This is a very kind of, it's an upbeat, all right? It feels like it's building energy. It feels like a montage music almost, especially the second half. The second half feels like all right, we've got the challenge. We're committing to the challenge. The team is together, and we've put our differences aside, and we're starting to work together towards the common goal. I don't know if that's what you were going for, but that's the kind of vibe I get right off the back of my head. Now, in terms of things you can work on, the one issue that seemed to stick out to me a number of times, I wrote down a couple different timestamps, is reverb. All right, reverb is very important. All right, reverb is an effect that mimics the behavior of sound within a room. So lots of people, when they start out, they think reverb is just like echoes and stuff, and it's not. That's delay. Delay is the effect that creates distinct repetitions of the sound. Reverb can create echoes, but the idea is it's supposed to mimic the effect that a room has on sound. When a sound happens in a room, there are technically 3 levels of sound that hit you. Sound behavior. All right, so let's imagine that you are, I cannot type today, that you are in a room, you're at a recital for your friend is playing piano. All right, they're sitting on the other end of the room, they hit a chord on the piano, that sound is going to hit you 3 different times. The first wave of sound is the direct sound. These are the sound waves that go straight from the piano right to your ears. Nothing bothers them, all right? Then you have the early reflections, all right? The early reflections are the sound waves that leave the piano, and they might bounce off one surface or another before they find your ears, but they're not going to bounce all over the place. So you got the piano, direct sound hits you first, then you've got the sound waves that bounced off a couple surfaces and find you next. Then finally you have the tail. The tail are the sounds that bounce off all kinds of surfaces multiple times until they eventually get to you, and instead of sounding like the direct sound, now they just sound like a kind of a wash of sound. So this is important to know because most reverb plugins will have a couple of different parameters that you can work with. You've got the mix, you've got the size, and you've got the tail. We'll say with the size of the cut, so we're going to go color. So the mix equals how far away the source is. All right? So let's actually get a sound here. All right, so let's get piano, a nice normal piano. Let's get a reverb plugin loaded, shall we? Let's go with Valhalla, if my computer can run. All right, let's see here. So we'll go with reverb. We'll go with Valhalla. Valhalla is very simple. Let's go with a hall. Let's just go with large hall. So mix right here determines how far away the sound is because it determines basically which percentage of your sound is going to be direct sound versus which percentage is going to be these other two. And this all comes back to your music, Alex. Sorry, I'm just doing a quick rundown of reverb. I will get to my point in a bit. So mix at 100%. Suddenly our piano sounds very different. All we have is that tail and that early reflections. If we bring it down to 0, we've got just the direct sound. If we bring it about 50, we're going to hear about half and half. All right. So typically, however high your mix is going to create a sense of how far away your source of sound is. So how far away the source is. The size is the size of the room, basically. The bigger the room, essentially, the longer the tail is going to be. So if we've got where's the tail? So the decay. The decay here is basically your tail. How long does it take for those second and third waves of sounds to decay and go to silence? So here we've got set to 2.4 seconds, basically. So what happens if we set this to 10? You'll notice that suddenly the room sounds much bigger because it takes much longer for the sound to decay. The reason why bigger rooms take longer to decay is because the walls are farther apart. The sounds take longer to bounce off enough times to die out. In a smaller room, it doesn't take nearly as long for the sound waves to bounce off so many surfaces that they eventually die. Then the last one is the color. Color is basically how how sharp the tail, we'll say the early reflections and tail are. So by sharp, I mean how noticeable. So in a room that has a lot of hard surfaces, we're going to have most of the high cut is not going to be taken off. Meaning that when it's a bunch of hard surfaces, most of the sounds are going to bounce off and they're not going to lose a lot of frequencies. So if we've got very low high cut, you can hear how there are more high frequencies. Let's see. So high cut meaning that this is a filter. So when it's a very hard room, lots of hard surfaces, not a lot of the high frequencies are going to be taken, and so the reverb is sharper. That tail is easier to notice, a brighter, more noticeable reverb. When it's lower, that reverb becomes a bit rounder, because as the sounds bounce off softer surfaces, it becomes less sharp. More of the high frequencies get absorbed. And so that reverb becomes a bit mellower, a bit warmer. Now, all of this to say, the whole point of reverb is it's supposed to mimic these things. It's supposed to create the effect that a very specific room has on your sound. Now, at a couple different points in your music, there were moments like, for example, I have around the 49-second marker. That was late, but you had a new idea enter, and it sounded like it was in a completely different room. So you had another layer, another motif entered, and because it didn't have a similar reverb, it sounds like it's being played in a different room, that you recorded all of these bigger parts in a big lush hall when all of a sudden this instrument was played right in front of the mic in a closet somewhere. They sound like they were recorded in different rooms. The same thing happened around 1 minute 21 seconds where you had another instrument that sounded like it was in a different room, and around 2 minutes and 40 seconds where you had the brass enter on their motif, and again the brass sounded like they were in a different room. So here is a working strategy. How to make reverb work in a mix with both wet and dry libraries. So a dry library is a sound library that has instruments that were recorded in a way that have very little natural reverb. So for example, Spitfire Studio Orchestra is a very dry library. They were very deliberate to give you a sound that was recorded in a smaller room and has very little amounts of reverb. Whereas Albion 1 is a very wet library, meaning that it was recorded in a room with lots of natural reverb. So you get the natural reverb of that room. So when you're trying to mix libraries that were done in very different settings, there are typically two steps I like to do. One is apply a room reverb to everything. A room reverb with very small tail, short tail. So if we were to work with multiple libraries, a room reverb is just a reverb that mimics a single, like it mimics a very small room rather than a hall. So right here we had the hall. If we swap to rooms, let's just find a small wooden room. We'll go down to about 50%. You notice it sounds very short. We've got about half a second of tail, and that's great. So what this does is it imitates the effect of a room without creating too big of a space. All right? So you're going to apply this to all the libraries. So mostly for the color. So that the libraries with lots of natural reverb, the wet libraries, and the libraries that are very dry and have no reverb, they all have a similar effect of the color. They all have a similar color, which helps them sound like they're in the same room together. Once you have applied a room reverb to all the libraries to make them sound like they were recorded in the same room, you're going to apply a hall reverb. A hall reverb to the dry libraries only. This way, to mimic the same tail length as the wet libraries. So the room reverb with the very short tail sets everyone in the same behavior and same color, whereas the hall reverb fixes the dry libraries to give them a tail that can match the length of the wet libraries, if that makes sense. All of that to do with, it's going to take some experimentation. All right. You're going to need to figure out, go based off your ear, because that is important as a composer, is be able to listen and notice things and try to figure out, all right, it sounds like when I play this or whatever, the note has maybe a 1.5 second reverb tail. Try to mimic that. Try different lengths until you've created as close to an image as you can. That was a big old tangent. All that to say, Alex, your music is incredible. It was just a bit about the mix. That was the one gripe I had, is there were several moments where certain instruments sounded like they were completely different rooms. And reverb is the solution to fix that. One of the solutions. There are lots of things you can do. EQing again, but then we've got a lot of them. So, let's see here. Comments. Sarcasm feeling suddenly self-conscious. Yeah, I can get that. I always feel self-conscious with sharing my music too, but it's good. It means that you're opening yourself up to growth. Tamashi, I have a question. A few days back, you posted that you need music based on the previous streamed cliches on instrument. Can we still submit it? I don't need music from the previous cliches from the live stream. It's just a challenge. If you want to write music that sounds angry and post it to YouTube and then tag me in it, I'll leave a comment. All right. A couple of you have done that already. Actually, we have one piece that got submitted to both the challenge and this competition. That's not this review. So I'm excited to look over that. Tamashi, I finally made a piece out of only the C chord and piano on my channel. That sounds like an interesting challenge. Yeah, challenge. Yeah, tag me in it. I'd love to check it out. Jack, is Valhalla Room the primary reverb you use on your pieces? For the most part, yeah. I like Valhalla Reverb. There's a couple others depending on the type. So, for example, I also use where is it? Realm by Native Instruments, which is a very powerful reverb, and it's very useful for sound design too. A lot of really cool ideas here. But it depends on the project. But yeah, those two tend to be the ones that I use most frequently. 23, welcome, Matt. Let's see here. Can I submit now? It's a 20-second track. Unfortunately, not at the moment. You can send it to me, and I might react to it later. But unfortunately, the deadline to submit for the live review is 24 hours before the stream. Just so I have time to prep for it and put it in the list. If you want to share it, we'll see if I've got time at the end. Depends on how long the stream is. Sometimes I go a little over and I review other pieces, but there's no guarantee. Let's see. Ship's Car. Yeah, this music for live feedback was initially composed for Angry Music. Oh, so wonderful. So we got a couple people who are doubling it. I wasn't really going for sounding like it was a performance in one room. I don't remember what my intention was because I wrote it months ago. No worries. So that doesn't necessarily need to be your intention. That's just a tip for mixing. For part of the mixing process for music in general is just making sure all the instruments sound like they were in the same room. Because it makes them sound cohesive. If one instrument feels like it was recorded in a different room, then it just sticks out and it doesn't blend as well. It damages the clarity of the mix. But hopefully it's helpful. Again, the whole point of these reviews, you can take my advice, don't take my advice. It's up to you. It's a chance just to share your music and have some fun, right? So excellent work, Alex. Wonderful job. Yep, no worries, Abdon. I do these once a month. And if you want to be part of the competition, next month's stream is actually not going to be a live review. It's going to be a competition. So if you guys were here for earlier in the stream, I talked about it. I can talk about it in a little bit. Yes, so wonderful. Let's move on to the next person, shall we? So, Alex, wonderful job. Next we have Unknown. All right, Unknown shared a link on SoundCloud and the request. The instruments sound so weird. This is my first attempt at full string brass woodwind piece, and I feel somewhat happy with the composition itself, but am dreaded by the muddiness and sound. It doesn't sound anything like when I hear other people who write full pieces. It sounds off. Okay. My concern is, am I paying respect to the limits of these instruments? I'm only a guitar/piano player and don't know much about the limitations of these orchestral instruments. I went based on what I imagine is doable. Awesome, great. So that is stuff I can help with. Let's listen to it. Let's see what feedback we can come up with for Unknown, shall we? SoundCloud. Here we go. All right. It's got some good energy. I like the chimes. I'm getting like a JRPG vibes from this. infectious energy. I the little brass. There we go. All right,
There's
nice.
always that one lovable dog at the park, always looking for pets.
Pause it. All right. That was awesome. All right, fantastic. So I do have a couple notes. So this is your first time really working with orchestral music. Fantastic, fantastic job. All right. It's got infectious energy. It's got great atmosphere. It's got a really bright personality. I love it. You had the woodwinds going all over the place. You had the brass playing rhythmic chords. You had the strings on all the ostinati. You're using a lot of the instruments in the way that you hear them get used in a lot of music. So excellent work. Your instincts are great. 2 things you can do to improve this. All right. Number 1 is kind of counterintuitive. This entire 2-minute and 30-second piece, you're using all the instruments. All right? That's rarely the case in any orchestral piece of music. All right, if you listen to any orchestral film composer, John Williams, Joe Hisaishi, Thomas Newman, there's so many. I don't want to go. Oh, so anyway, I'm gonna go on a tangent there. Because I'm James Newton Howard. I knew I was on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't remember James Newton Howard, and that was gonna bug me if I didn't name his name. All these composers do something really, really well, and it's a golden rule of orchestration. There are so many golden rules of orchestration. All right, but one of the big ones, if I had to say there was just one rule that you could start working on right now, only use what you need. All right, the orchestra is a beautiful creature filled with hundreds of sounds and colors. You've got the brass section, string section, woodwind section, percussion sections. Those are just the basics. Once you add choir and synths, rhythm sections, pipe organ, bands, all kinds of stuff you can add to it, there are so many different colors. And the single greatest strength of the orchestra is the variety in colors and sounds. So, if you are constantly using everyone, you've robbed yourself of that biggest advantage. Because you only have one color, and then only one sound. And that's the color and sound of everybody playing at the same time. Which is a beautiful, powerful sound, but it's not the only one you can use. So, a little tip on how to apply this. Only use what you need. This tends to be a common way of thinking that I find in a lot of my students when they first start out. What can I have? I have X do. Right? And X being any instrument. You're like, all right, I'm writing. Okay, I still have to add the flutes on something. What can I have the flutes do? That's a great way to get started, but it's inherently problematic. Because with this line of work, you're automatically thinking, I have to use everybody, which again, robs you of that greatest strength of the orchestra, of the variety in colors. So a better way to think would be, which instrument can play this part? All right, so instead of thinking of instrumentation and arranging as an instrumental lens of what can the flutes do, what can the trumpets do, what can the percussion do, it's better to start thinking, all right, I have a melody, I have a bass line, and I have a counter melody. And these are the 3 layers in my music at this moment. Who do I think is best for the melody? All right, then you pick the instrument or instruments that you think are best for the melody. Then you think, who can play the bass line? And you pick the instruments for the bass line. And then the counter melody. And you follow that going based off a part focus of what layers do I want in this music and who is best suited for this job. If you can make that shift in your thinking, the quality of your arrangements is going to explode. So part 2 of the feedback, which is very similar, very closely related, is if you'll notice, this is almost a constant energy level. All right, that's awesome. That's great for lots of pop music, lots of dance music. It will have very high energy for the whole time. It's not the case typically for orchestral music. Orchestral music tends to have a very big focus on dynamics. It gets louder, then it gets softer. It comes back up, then it comes back down. You want to have a shape to it. So again, in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, that was a bop, constant high energy, right? But you can't always do that for longer pieces. So you want to be able to think of your structure and think, all right, where does the energy come up? Where does the energy come down? Where does the size grow? Where does the size come back? There's all kinds of things that you can use to tell your story, because energy and size are two of the pillars of emotions in music. I've talked about this a whole bunch on this channel, but there are 3 pillars in music. There's valence, which is how dark or bright the emotion is. There is size, which is how overwhelming the music is. And then there is energy, which is how energizing or draining the emotion is. And if you can get those 3 and describe those 3, then you've got a map for what your music needs to do, right? So amazing job, Ano. This is a very strong first entry. So congratulations. I hope you are very proud of yourself, because you should be. And hopefully this will help. Now, if you want to learn more about orchestration, if you would like to learn all of those other golden rules, you have a couple options. Go to my website, go to the Academy page. This is the free education. So if you are new to my channel, I have over 250 videos on my channel. If you are new to the channel and you don't know where to get started, this is an excellent way. I have organized the vast majority of, or at least my favorite videos, into 4 classes that are 100% free. So, for example, if you want to learn about harmony, this class is essentially what videos would I have you watch on my channel, in which order, and here are a bunch of articles and exercises you can do to fill the gaps. Same with melody writing. Orchestration 1, this is how you get to learn all the different instruments that are typical of the orchestra. And Orchestration 2 is more about arranging. So it's not necessarily orchestra specific, more about how do you approach arranging music in general. So yeah, all these classes are 100% free. You can donate. I'm going to start a fundraising campaign soon. If we can get to $1,000, I'll take some time off my schedule to add a 5th class. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to make an announcement about that because when people donate, I'll have them throw in a vote for what they think the 5th class should be. Another option is my bookshop. All right, this book right here, The Musical Storyteller, which is available in both physical copies on Amazon and ebooks here, is a 400-page book. You can go through the table of contents here and see this is a guided study. This is a book, 400 pages, that is meant to take you cover to cover, teaching you everything you need to know to be a better composer in the order I would recommend teaching it. So this is another great resource. This has had many very positive reviews, so thank you everybody who's done positive reviews. It's 5 stars so far. You can check that out. And if you wanted to learn more about what I was saying earlier about those pillars of emotions in music, we have this book here, but we also have a class. So this class starts Monday. The cohort starts Monday, and then it closes shortly after that to new members. So if you want to sign up now. There are payment options. This is a class. You get lessons with me, and you can learn all about it here. This has lots more wonderful reviews, so thank you everybody who's done that. And this is a class where you learn everything you could possibly need to know to compose any possible emotion. So yeah, there's all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's get caught up on these comments, shall we? Alex, yeah, I agree. Alex, this does sound like, I was getting JRPG vibes too. It does sound like Zelda music. Sick Flow, I'm working on a piece right now as I watch your YouTube videos and wasn't getting done yet. I think I heard you do these once a month, so I'll definitely submit it for the next one. Yes, I do. I do these. I try to do these once a month. Next month, maybe not, because next month, the last week of the stream, which is usually when I do these, I'm doing a composing competition. So if you want to learn more about the composing competition, I already talked about it at the beginning of the stream, so I won't do anything just yet. I won't do another deep dive now, but you can find the details on Instagram. You can also find it on the community page of my website. And the last stream of next month will be announcing the winners and the runners-up of this competition. So check that out. So awesome. I'm glad you're writing music though. And Sickflow says, hey, I discovered your channel through the YouTube algorithm and I managed to watch the full 101 orchestration playlist and watch the full 6-hour stream and still have a lot to catch on. Awesome. I'm glad. Thank you. Welcome to the channel. So yeah, for you, I would recommend the classes. Those free classes will organize all those videos for you so you can learn as quickly as possible. Let's see here. So let's see. Thank you. Okay. I'll let the low brass. Okay. Wonderful. See here, going through here. Let me see. I feel like doing this in my music too. I like to. Yes, yeah. Adding everything does tend to be a very tempting idea. Awesome. So we're getting more recommendations. Awesome. So we're getting some good conversations in here too. Sven, you said orchestral music should change in size, but if you need a certain video game loop, wouldn't it be best to just keep the same energy in order to keep the mood of the level? Video game music is its own animal. Video game music also moves up and down. Like if you listen to Skyrim or Final Fantasy, the energy level changes quite dramatically. Now, the middle of a boss battle, that's going to change. All right. So, of course, everything is contextual. Orchestral music doesn't always change energy levels, but it tends to very frequently. Film music certainly changes energy levels. If you watch one of the best pieces of film music ever written, in my opinion, and this might shock some people, is actually from Pirates of the Caribbean 3. The entire finale is a masterclass on orchestral writing that we rarely get from Hans Zimmer. Just brilliant use of motifs, of timing, and yes, shifts in energy and size to keep it interesting. So if you listen to that, you'll notice that the size gets big, it comes back down, it gets big, it comes back down. It shifts to match the energy of the scene and the emotions that it's trying to portray. So 23, good point, son. I've come across that issue before. Tim, well, get excited on my submission. It's a battle soundtrack for games. Ooh, that sounds fun. In fact, let's get started, shall we? Let's move on to the next person. So Unknown, I hope that was helpful feedback. I have spent a lot of time on just these. Why is it not working? Oh, there we go. On just these couple. All right, so Erica Flores, another regular on the channel and the Instagram page. So Erica says, what is your general feedback for this piece? Does it have a beginning, middle, end, or lack thereof? Or is it sufficient without that traditional structure? Another question, should it have been more build-up? Should it have more contrast with a B section? Excellent questions. Lots of shoulds, and these kinds of questions are dependent on the context of the music and what it's going for. And we have some context. Additional notes. I wrote this piece for a composition contest. Prompt, write a 90-second piece of music using the image below. I'm assuming this was a Ryan Leach contest. The second bit of context, the original idea came from a demo or pitch I made for a short film and had a family, warmth, and nostalgia in mind. Good to know. Okay, so we're going for family, we're going for warmth, we're going for nostalgia. You're asking about the structure, and you're asking if it should have had a bit more contrast with the B section. Let's give it a listen, shall we? I'm assuming that's not your music. All right, we'll mute the ad for now. Let's see here. Here we go. Alex, how do I add reverb to concert bass drums without drowning the mix and being ready? Probably focus on room reverb. Again, things with a very short tail, so you're just impacting the color.
Department of Health and Human Services gambling
Still going. All right, still add is still. Oh, here we go. Down here. Here we go. Two ads.
Started
two
this
ads in a row. Oh, you're killing me, Spotify. Not Spotify, SoundCloud. 23. Did you ever enter a Ryan Leach competition tabletop controller? No, I haven't. I should. I wanted to at one point. I felt like I was going to do, but I ended up, for whatever reason, it was a Halloween one. I thought, it's like, I got some time on my schedule. It sounds fun. But I haven't done it. I am a very big fan of Ryan's channel, though. So if y'all are fans of Ryan, go comment on his channel. Tell him he's got to collab with me. We got to do something together. Here we go. Ooh. Beautiful string entrance. I'm getting those nostalgic vibes. This is beautiful. This is gorgeous. I'm forgetting to pay attention for criticism. Or not criticism, but feedback. That was beautiful. All right. So what was the feedback for? What did you want again? You wanted Okay, so does it have the structure? Nothing stuck out to me as being wrong with the structure. All right, it seemed like a very beautiful piece, especially it says reprise. So this is the reprise. Where's the original? I want to hear the full version. All right, so beautiful. It does definitely give off that uplifting, nostalgic feel. The use of the plucked string instrument, I'm not sure what it was, but the strings and the woodwinds, such a beautiful quality in the sound. Should it have more build-up or should it have more contrast in the B section? I don't think so. But again, it depends on the context. This sounded very good as a reprise. Reprises are very usually much shorter. There are exceptions. For example, in my most recent soundtrack, I had a reprise that was much longer than the original. But that was because of the context of the story. The first one was a bit of like the first use of the theme, and the second one was an actual performance of the actors on stage who were having a jam session together in the story. So there's always going to be exceptions. I think the amount of contrast, it works well. Now, if you had wanted to expand this piece, and you wanted to create a longer piece, then yes, you're going to probably need to add some contrasting moments. Why add contrast? Add contrasting material. You want to add contrasting material because it keeps things interesting. All right, so when you realize that contrasting material allows enough novelty, enough change in your music to keep it from sounding boring and repetitive. So it keeps it from sounding boring and repetitive. Once you understand that the point of contrasting material is simply this, then you understand that it's not the only strategy. If you want to add contrasting material, wonderful, great. If you want to introduce some new themes, awesome, that's fantastic. But if all you're doing is trying to keep it interesting and keeping it from sounding boring and repetitive, suddenly you have other options. For example, incremental complexity, that tool we talked about earlier about gradually adding more layers. That is a wonderful tool for building interest. You can do the opposite, incremental simplicity, or you could just use the original term again, incremental complexity, of gradually removing layers. You start with a nice full structure, build up, and then rather than introducing a new section, for example, instead of adding a contrasting theme at the end of this, you just repeat the same theme over again, but this time the texture changes. Instead of having the strings and flutes, you suddenly have, say, solo piano. And solo piano takes the melody on for a bit. That's a way you can add change without needing to have a contrasting theme. So adding new themes is a very powerful tool, but it's not the only one when you're realizing that all you're trying to do is keeping things from sounding boring and repetitive. So let's write down some of these strategies. Strategies to keep things from getting boring. So, Erica, you very rightly brought out contrasting themes. Right? So, B themes. Melodies that are different. So you had the A theme. Now you add the B theme just because it's different. It keeps things from getting boring. Another strategy that we talked about, incremental complexity, which can be used either to add layers or take layers away. That makes things more interesting. And then a very common one. We've talked about a tool that Hans Zimmer uses, incremental complexity. Let's talk about one that John Williams uses. John Williams will use shifting timbres and textures. John Williams will repeat the same melody over and over again. But the first time we hear it, it's a solo flute. The second time we hear it, now the first violins have joined the flute. The third time we hear it, bam, it's an octave, strings, and a French horn. He changes the instrumentation and the size to keep it from getting boring, right? So there's all kinds of strategies. So it depends on the context. It depends on what you're going for. But for the most part, that was just a long tangent because I couldn't think of anything constructive to say because it was such a beautiful piece. So wonderful job, Erica. Wonderful job. Excellent. All right, so let's see here. Let's see. Very relaxing. Let's see here. This makes you want to go to the village market and buy seeds. Yes, go buy some seeds, Jack. I wrote a demo before this, and this piece is a fleshed out version I wrote for the competition. Ooh, nice. So you wrote a demo. Nice. Okay. Yes. Well, actually, I kind of knew that, actually. So wonderful. Let's see here. So I think that was great. I think it really captured the vibe of the image for sure. Yeah. So I'm forgetting what the image was, but it sounded very pastoral, very nostalgic, very Ghibli-esque. So very beautiful. Awesome. So we got some great comments. There we go. So wonderful job, Erica. Thank you for sharing your music with us. Let's keep it going. All right, Sir Kensington, the person who said they were feeling self-conscious after Alex went. Let's listen to your music, shall we? All right, so request. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you out like that. I don't need to say that. It's just what your comment jumped into my mind after that. So request, how does the percussion sound? I don't really write for percussion, so what I have is pretty simple and doesn't last too long. And are the motifs and ideas I used too repetitive? Ooh, so we just talked about some strategies for keeping things from sounding repetitive. Let's see if we can apply any of those. Right. Additional notes, I'm going to college for music composition, and this is a piece that I worked on this past semester. It's not finished yet. I've been running into writer's block with it, so I gave it a temporary ending for the sake of the submission. I don't know if you have any tips for writer's block. It's different for everyone, but I want to know how you would go about it. Ooh, good question. I actually have done an entire stream about fighting writer's block, and I have very specific thoughts on it. But for now, let's listen to the music, all right? Ooh, sunset. Ooh, nice chromaticism. This is another beautiful one. Beautiful. I'm just zoning out listening to this. It's beautiful. This is what you guys. The amount of talent in this chat is breathtaking. So yes, wonderful job, Sir Kensington. This should not be unlisted. List it. All right, people need to see this. So beautiful. Let's go to your questions. All right, how does the percussion sound? I don't really write for percussion. I thought the percussion sounded great. Nothing stuck out to me as being off. And we'll talk about some of the more ways that you can explore additional uses of percussion in a bit. But first, are the motifs and ideas I use too repetitive? I don't think so. I think they work really well. The only one that might be a bit too repetitive, and this is a matter of personal taste, is the left hand of the piano. And it's not that it's too repetitive. It's almost that it's a bit constant. So you have a couple moments where you have contrasting themes brought in. If you allow the audience just a single phrase, a nice break from that left hand, then you'll be amazed how much more life it can breathe back into it when it returns. All right, so I'd say that's the only thing that I thought was maybe a little repetitive. I thought it was great, though. So good work. So that's just a little bit of a... So another thing you can do is instead of making it just jump out, you can also try developing it and changing it slightly. Changing the shape, changing the dynamics. A lot of different things you can do. But I would say the only one that seemed a little repetitive was that left hand. And that's, again, only because I was listening for things that were repetitive. If you had not told me to listen for things that are too repetitive, I probably wouldn't have noticed it because it's a very beautiful motif. All right, so let's talk about percussion for a bit, shall we? Percussion is very different based on the approach you're taking to writing. All right, so there are 3 very common types of percussion writing in film music. You have the rhythm section writing, which is like a band. You've got the drum kit, basically. You have epic / cinematic percussion, which is, again, its own little thing. And then you have orchestral percussion. Each of these being very different. So rhythm section writing, just going off a very super reductionist definition, consists of at least a few different elements. You have the hi-hat, which are used as timekeepers, so constant 8th or 16th notes to help give context for all the others. You have the snare. We'll have this for the backbeat, which is basically hitting the weak beats. You have the kick drum, which is responsible for strong beats plus groove. In fact, we can just say the groove. Because the groove will typically hit the strong beats, but the groove is basically, the kick is where you have the most personality. The kick drum is where you get the rhythmic personality of the music. All right, then of course you typically have toms. Fills and embellishments. And again, this is super reductionist. This is not meant to be like these are the only things that the instruments are used for. It's just a basics. If you're starting at the very beginning, learning how to write for this, these are the things to work with. Epic or cinematic percussion is very similar to the rhythm section. And these are what you think about big movies, pounding drums. You have hits, which are the base of your rhythmic identity. Focus on key beats. All right, so the hits are used to accent particularly important beats. You have timekeepers, which are typically things like higher drums, sometimes toms. There's a bunch of different options. Very similar to the hi-hat. They use constant rhythm, constant 16th notes, constant 8th notes, constant 32nd notes, something where it's a straight rhythm to help provide background and context for all the other rhythms. Use velocity to add personality. So even though you're using straight 16th notes or straight 32nd notes and not really deviating from that too much, you can use this types of accents and which ones get hit a bit harder to add personality to it. And then you have rhythm, which are basically things like toms, taikos sometimes, where they form the base of your personality. So these are basically the rhythm parts that you can sing. So whereas the hit points are the ones that were like, if you imagine like trying to sing out your percussion parts, the rhythm part is basically the drum part you're singing, like boom, 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 boom. Like whatever you're singing along to your music, that's the rhythm part. The timekeepers are constant in the background, and they're used to give context and make this a bit stronger through that context. And then the hits, whenever you're singing, those are the ones that you're gonna bam, like hit your hand while you're singing. Those are the ones that get a little extra punch. All right. Now, orchestral percussion is different. Orchestral percussion, you can think of this as like the romantic approach to percussion. Is going to be used for 7 traditional uses. You have highlighting, accents. You have builds and climaxes. So you can think like crescendos. You have harmonic support, meaning things like the xylophone, the tubular bells, things that support the harmony. You have doubling for color, because a lot of the percussion instruments have pitch and they can double other parts, just add a bit of color or attack to it. You have ostinati, which are repeating rhythmic ideas. You have extreme dynamics, because the percussion section is simultaneously capable of the quietest and the loudest dynamics in the percussion. So when you want to take advantage of that, you can use the percussion for that. You have solo statements, where you just use the percussion and feature the percussion. And you can remember this through the acronym DOES HBH. So if we actually take this, we'll pop it down there. So doubling for color, ostinati, extreme dynamics, solo statements. These first letters are DOES and then just HBH. So this is a very quick, brief breakdown of percussion. These are some things to hopefully get your thoughts going. We don't have time, unfortunately, for a deep dive into any of these. But yeah, it's something to get started with. So hopefully that's helpful. What was your other question? You had other questions, right? Oh yeah, we talked about the repetitives. I think it worked well. So writer's block. Let's see if we can find this. Tabletop composer, writer's block. Yeah, how to overcome writer's block. I did a stream where I talked about this. So check that out. That's for the long answer. Short answer is basically what you did. Just like a quick, too long didn't read response. When I don't feel motivated to write, I put creativity on the back burner and focus on skill. I treat it like a homework assignment, basically. So if I need to write a main character's theme for a soundtrack I've been hired to do, and I'm just not coming up with anything I'm happy with, I will sit down and I'll go, all right, I need to come up with 5. And I will write 5 melodies. It doesn't matter if I don't feel creative. I know from an intellectual level in the process I follow, these are 5 good melodies. They might be soulless, but they are academically sufficient, intellectually sufficient. I'll create 5 of them, then I'll take a break, and when I come back, I'll re-listen to them, and chances are at least one of them is either going to sound better when I come back and get me excited to work on it, or one of them will inspire a better idea. So that's the kind of main thing going from there. So let's see here. So hopefully that helps. Let's take a look at the comments. Let's see here. Let's see here. Well, so where are we? I'll say so. Wow. So I missed a lot of comments, right? So let's see. Where thank you. All right. Okay, thank you, Stephen, and everyone for helpful feedback. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the pieces. Awesome. Welcome. I'm glad. I feel like I'd be drowning anything I plant. All right. So, so talk about the C's 21. Anything here about the percussion as well. I'm bad with that section. So awesome. People are enjoying the things about the percussion. People are asking about so getting some nice conversations going. This is really good at adding interest in every couple of us. So awesome. So people are enjoying the music. Let's see. You're gonna have some link to the chat due to some bug. Let's see. As a percussion, I think the percussion sounds good, simple but good. Also awesome. So good. People are giving some good feedback on the music. Wow, so many comments. Let me get caught up. Awesome. Let's see here. I'm playing let's see here. Let's see. So hopefully 23 appreciates the percussion. Awesome. So yeah, we got a great stuff. So wonderful, everybody. So awesome. We are ready to move on, shall we? So wonderful job, Sir Kensington. Awesome job. So next we have Tim Phillipson. All right, Tim Phillipson. Request. I'd like to know if it fits the vibe and how can I improve the overall quality of it. All right, Tim. Let's see what kind of vibe we're going for. All right, Battle Scene soundtrack. Here we go. Getting back into the high action music now. Those strings are giving me Game of Thrones vibes, which is weird because I've never seen Game of Thrones. There we go. There we go. There we go. Nice contrasting section. All right. Adding those contrasting sections is great for creating interest in loopable music. There we go. I love the choir coming in. Your motifs are solid. I'm already starting to hum them along. All right. That was awesome, Tim. All right, wonderful. Congratulations first off the bat. Amazing piece. I hope you're proud of it. You should be proud of it. All right, so the strengths right off the bat, your motifs are very strong. All right, so in terms of they have a lot of interest. So towards the end, I found myself already humming along and kind of singing along to it. That's good. That's what you want. All right, so you've got a talent for that. Now, I saw your comment. All right, so you already, I think you saw, there is a bit of an issue with repetitiveness, which we've already talked about here. That's not an issue. That's not too big of an issue. It's an easy fix. So, again, we talked earlier about adding interest, all those different strategies for interest. And those 3 strategies that we came up with were contrasting ideas, which you do. Then we had our incremental complexity. And then we had shifting timbres and or textures. 3 of the most common tried and true strategies that composers have used for hundreds of years to build interest in their music. So we're going to add on to this a little bit. All right, because you did have this. You had contrasting ideas. You had incremental complexity, and you had shifting timbres and textures. So why did some moments sound a bit more repetitive than others? I'd say it's because, for example, incremental complexity. The first 38 seconds, you had a very solid motif you established that kept going. And then around 38 seconds, you added like 3 more layers, which was amazing. It built size, impact, all that cool stuff. But if you were to spread those out a little bit more and maybe introduce them one at a time, it would have kept it from sounding too repetitive. So as a general guideline, if you're trying to avoid being too repetitive, there's a general guideline. All right? Add a small change every 4 bars. Add a more significant change every 8. So by small change, I mean maybe something like a cymbal crash. Just something new. Every 8 bars, so after every phrase, you could try adding a new instrument and or layer, or remove something. All right? So when you're doing it something like this, where it's regular intervals that you're changing, you're keeping that in mind. Again, this is a general guideline. This isn't like a catch-all for everything, but it's a good way to get started being more conscientious of the kind of changes you're adding. This goes a long way to keep it from sounding repetitive. But other than that, other than repeating stuff here and there, it was a really good piece. I think it does very well to hit the vibe. It very much sounded like boss music to me, like battle music. I think, what am I not saying there? So yeah, just paying a little bit more attention to adding a bit of novelty here and there, whether it's something small every 4 bars, like a cymbal crash, or maybe an accent, or maybe a new motif, something simple, something small. You don't have to be big, and you don't have to do it every 8 measures, but the big one is every 8 bars. So every phrase, you should have something change. So even if you're repeating the same section, maybe give someone else the melody, or add a new voice to the melody, or double the bass line. An octave lower is a very common one to add weight and power, to add some kind of shift. But I think this was really good. All right, strong motif. I think, like I said, I think you've got really good instincts for making interesting motivic ideas. I think that works really well. I think just the main thing, like you said, making a little bit of changes here and there. But excellent work. Let's see what kind of comments we got here. Let's see here. Tamashi, I can listen to Steven speaking gibberish all night. All right, you know what? That is part of being ADHD, all right? See, there we go. Gibberish and stuttering all over myself again. My buddy, who actually became a therapist. We both went to grad school to be therapists, but he's an actual therapist. He told me that one of the very common symptoms of ADHD is your brain moves faster than your mouth can. And so you trip over yourself trying to say all the things you want to say. And so that's why I do gibberish a lot. But at very least, it's a point of endearment for you, I guess. So I like the low strings. These battles are going to, 23 brings up a very good point. Battles are going to be very repetitive anyways. All right, so you want repetitive ideas. So every once in a while, I would say another thing, something that would help a lot for this kind of music. This is just a general rule. When you are doing video game music and you are doing music that needs to repeat on a loop for an indeterminate amount of time because you have no idea how good or bad your players are and how long it's going to take them to beat the boss, shifting timbres and textures is very, very useful. Establish a theme, make sure they're familiar with it, and then swap to something else. All right? So maybe instead of doing lots of rhythmic strings in section A, section B, maybe the strings pull back a bit, and now it's more percussion driven. And then you can bring the strings back, but having those shifting blocks helps give a lot more mileage. And then let's see here. Cool. The transitions were very cool. The flow was good. Let's see here. So excellent. So yeah, excellent work. Excellent work, Tim. Beautiful. I don't think we've had... this has all been a really good submission so far. Excellent work. So Tim Phillipson, very good job. I hope you are proud of your music because you should be. And don't be too overly critical of yourself. All right? So you can notice things that you want to improve on, but all the music is stuff that you should be proud of, right? So requests from Vivid. How do I make woodwinds more effective in arrangement? Increasing the decibels doesn't create fine results. That becomes an issue of balance. But let's listen to it first. Feels very stately. Very regal. Royalty people. Also, people, don't forget to like the stream. It helps a lot. I gotta get better at saying that. So if you haven't already, like the stream. It tells YouTube that you're enjoying yourselves. Speaking of which... Your woodwinds are quite quiet, aren't they? I'm trying to listen specifically for the woodwinds. I can see what you're talking about. There we go. Lower flutes are coming through a bit better. Oh, no, that's violin. Or viola. It's a stringed instrument. I like the stately march of it. I don't know why, this is giving me Final Fantasy vibes as well. Beautiful. Nope, not gonna.
Let's
nope. There we go. All right. So awesome. So nope. Why did it go to? Okay. So what's on my music? All right. Awesome. Wonderful. 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 All right. Beautiful job, Vivid. Beautiful. Let's talk about woodwinds, shall we? So first off, let's do an overview of the most common uses for woodwinds. Good. I heard from what I did here, it sounded like you used mostly the woodwinds for doubling of the strings and sometimes playing a counter melody. But the woodwinds can be used for so many more things. All right, so standalone. All right, so this makes sense. So they can play the melody by themselves. They can play the harmony by themselves. They can play bass line by themselves. Basically, you can just use the woodwinds for their own sake. You can use them for doubling for color. All right, so this is very common. It's called creating an enriched string sound. So if you got, say, first violins, and you write the first violins for playing mezzo forte, take 2-3 flutes playing in unison, mark them for mezzo piano, and have them play, and you're going to create a sound that sounds very much like the strings, but it's going to sound slightly more open, slightly more breathy, very breathtaking. It's create a slightly enriched string sound. It's a very common strategy. Take the string section, add a flute, a clarinet, an oboe, or a French horn even, have them play underneath it, just one, play the same part, just one dynamic level lower, and it creates a very beautiful quality. But it doesn't have to be for strings, it can be any kind of thing. So doubling for color, you can adding energy / movement, so things like runs, trills, etc. Runs, trills, arpeggios, etc. All right. You can use them for embellishments. This is a very common strategy for the woodwinds. So if you have the violins playing the melody, you can have like a flute playing an embellished version of the melody where they're just adding more notes to it. Again, if you want to learn more about this, check out my videos in my advanced arranging techniques playlist. It's in the texture video about accompanimental textures. No, it's in the linear textures video. We'll break it and talk about this in much more detail. So there's lots of uses that you can use for the woodwinds. Now, why weren't they cutting through your mix? From what I could hear, this was predominantly an issue of something called frequency masking. All right, when multiple instruments share very similar frequency content, so they're around the same range, you could say, and they're not separated by any other means, those frequencies are going to blend, and something is going to get lost. All right, so one way that you can fix this, it's very simple, is just panning. I don't know why it made that noise all of a sudden. If you put your violins on the left part of the stage, and you put your flutes on the right side of the stage, well, then suddenly they're not going to be competing as much, and they'll stick out much more clearly. EQing is also very helpful for this. Unfortunately, these kind of things are going to take a little too long to go into. So here's what we're going to do. Go to Tabletop Composer. Go to More. Let's expand. Go to the blog. And where is it? Okay, creating a digital space for your arrangements. Click on this one. This will walk you through the whole idea of using mic positions, of using panning, of using all kinds of things and reverb to create space for your arrangement. Here you can actually see images that I made to follow those 3 types of reverb. We're talking about the direct sound, early reflections, and the tail. All right? So it's a good little blog post. Check it out. And that's basically the issue. You've got your violins and your flutes playing very similar parts. They're overlapping, and the violins are the stronger sound. So it's hiding the flute. It's masking the flute. So that's the big issue. That is probably why changing the volume isn't helping. But other than that, very cool piece. Like I said, for whatever reason, it was giving me like Final Fantasy type vibes. Very regal and royal kind of stuff. I enjoyed it. So great work. Fantastic. I hope that was helpful. Jack. Okay, I don't know who said what, but Jack is spitting some fire. Be proud of your music, but be critical. But before all, be proud. Yes, in fact, I was going to go on a rant about that. All right, so it's actually, all right, don't mean to call you out, Shiv Shankar, but you have a note in here. I'm only 17 years old, thus I use Note Performer, which has a poor sound quality because I can't afford any pricey sound libraries. Good context, but you're not. I'm not calling you out specifically, Shiv Shankar. I just get comments like these all the time. So many people share their music, and before I can even listen to it, they're telling me why it's not very good. That's a terrible thing to do, because then the best reaction I can have is, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And so Jack's here spitting some fire. That's exactly true. Be proud of your music. It doesn't matter where you are, but don't be the person to take your own legs out from underneath you. Are we proud? This is my music. All right? It doesn't matter. Some people might be able to do better. Maybe someone has better libraries. It doesn't matter. None of that matters because this is my music. All right? I'm not saying be arrogant. I'm not saying show up and go, here you go. I just sent you the link to the best piece of music you're ever going to freaking hear. All right? No, that's not what I'm saying. But don't be critical of yourself like this. Be critical in a constructive way and saying, these are areas I can grow. But don't ever tell someone, hey, here's my music, and this is why it's probably not that good. Allow me to form my own opinions, all right? Share your music and allow me to hear it the way I am supposed to hear it for the first time, without any prior expectations. All right, just existing in for what it is. Let your music sing and stand for its own. All right? Again, Chipsicar, I only pulled you out because I knew that you had an example down here. But I get this a lot from people, so I don't mean to call you out, buddy. Sorry about that. But it's a very common thing I get. I get it from so many people who share their music. Here's my music, and here's why it's not going to be very good. Keep that in mind while you listen to it. All right? Because again, the best possible reaction I can have is, oh, that wasn't as bad as you said it was going to be. That's the best case scenario. And worst case scenario, I'm going to go in there already expecting not to like it. So if I'm told, oh, here's my music, it's got bad sound libraries and bad mix and bad production, but let me know what your thoughts are. And I'm worst case scenario, I'm listening going, yeah, that's bad quality. All right? You don't want me thinking that. You want me to think past, I might have the original thing like, oh, okay, this person's using Note Performer. That's fine. I'm going to move on and let the music speak for itself. All right? So don't cut yourself short. Just be your biggest fan, be open to criticism and improvement, but don't sell yourself short. So thank you, Jack, for spitting fire. I saw that and I just had to say something. So Jack said, okay, so the image is from Final Fantasy. There we go. So lots of people getting the same vibe. Let's see. So yeah, everybody makes it. So Tamashi's right. Everybody liked the stream. Thank you. We got some more people to like it. Thank you. It's very good for the channel. YouTube likes to see when people interact. The chat is amazing for the stream. It's very healthy, and YouTube loves seeing that. So sending emojis, sending messages, all of that is fantastic for the chat. Liking the chat is fantastic. Let's see here. Like it needed EQ differently, basically. So yeah, EQ panning is very helpful. How to be as smooth as tabletop when transitioning to ads. Thank you. Yes. Speaking of transitioning to ads, thank you, Tamashi. All right, people, buy my stuff. All right, couple things. Bookshop. All right, so this right here, I'm gonna have a physical copy delivered to my house soon, so I'm gonna make an ad for it here. That's pretty helpful. The book is pretty cool. These are the things I am most proud of, but I've got notes and slides from videos you can get here. And I am also going to say the emotions and music class, this begins Monday. This comes among all the lessons about how to portray any emotion with music. You are taught my own personal approach and methods for music and emotions, and a strategy that is completely unique. I had a student from Berkeley who signed up for private lessons with me. Then I was working with him to help him with his final project at Berkeley. And we did a quick crash course on emotions and music, and he was blown away. He told me he'd never heard anything like it, and it made so much sense. You know why? Because I didn't go to school for music. I went to school to be a therapist. All right? And so I spent 6 years of my life studying emotions and psychology. 6 years of my life learning how to understand them and describe them. And then I became a composer. And so I brought all of those skills and knowledge with me, and now I teach a class. Class begins Monday. It is 6 weeks. There are 6 modules. Every week a new module opens. You can take them at your own pace. But every week you get 2 cool things. There is a live lesson that I teach. So it's similar to the live stream, but only you're actually in the stream with me. It's done on Google Chat, so you can talk in and we have a video chat together. We get to see each other and talk and interact in real time, where I go over materials from the class and answer your questions very much like this. If you can't make the live stream, because if you want to be a part of the live stream, sign up now because everybody votes on what time to actually meet. If you sign up late, then, and the time is already chosen, then unfortunately you're just stuck with that time. Sign up now to vote for a time that works for you. But if you can't make it, all of the lessons are recorded and then posted into the private Discord channel that is part of this class only. So you get to be part of a cool private Discord channel. That's a lot of fun. And, oh yeah, written feedback. Every week there are assignments for writing music. Nothing too crazy, just like 8 bars of music each week. You can do more if you'd like. But you get detailed feedback. And it can come in 2 different formats. You can either get me recording a video like this, talking about it live, if that works better for you. But if you want it written, it's always guaranteed 2 to 3 pages of written feedback, as long as you actually follow the assignment. And I can give you feedback on the stuff that is supposed to be for the assignment. But there's always written feedback, so you get weekly detailed feedback, not like the live review. I actually listen to your music multiple times and go in depth. So check it out. The class is $250, which is very cheap when you break that down across 6 private lessons. That's less than the price of my private lessons in terms of 6 lessons goes. And there are payment plans. So check it out. And yeah, so buy my stuff. That's all that message is. All right, thank you, Tamashi, for the reminder to do ads. Oh, awesome. So we got a lot of young composers in here. Alex, congratulations. Good work. You should be proud of yourself. I did not start composing music until I was in my 20s. I think I was like 22, 23. I wrote my first piece of music in 2018. And then through the magic of ADHD, I hyperfixated and became a professional. So let's see here. Yes, MuseScore 4 is goated. It is very good. Yes, tabletop, what I needed to hear today. Awesome. Hopefully, Erica, I'm not sure what you needed to hear today, but hopefully. Oh, yeah, my rant about not being too critical. Awesome. I'm glad it was helpful. Okay, so let's see here. Where do you learn to read music and compose? So where did I learn to read music and compose? I learned to read music because I was part of band. In my family, there was a rich tradition of being very passionate about music until you graduate high school, then you cut it out. My grandpa was part of a big band, and then he got drafted in the World War, and he never played music ever again. My abuelita was part of a mariachi, but then she stopped when she got older. My dad was a great role model because he was part of a band, but he kept going. He got a real job, but then he kept playing on the side as a way to make a little extra money and just enjoy his passion. And so when it was my turn, I was very passionate about band. I was part of like the state honors band. I did all that stuff. But the moment college started, cold turkey, done. And obviously that worked out well for me, didn't it? So I knew how to read music because of my background in music. But I had to teach myself how to compose. And so a lot of experience on YouTube. I had a very, very short stint with music school before I had to drop out because I was broke. So check out my page on the Academy if you want to learn more about that, because I talk about why I started the free Academy. But yeah, it's been basically just, like I said, ADHD hyperfixation, long days of wanting to do nothing but study and write music. And so for whatever reason, I turned out to have a bit of a talent for teaching myself music, and it worked out. And now I've made a decent kind of reputation for myself as being kind of one of the experts on this kind of stuff. So I'm very blessed, very happy with that. Let's see, as a college student, that's a great idea. Great deal. Thank you. Yes, as a college student, yes. Berkeley, for example, for a 12-week class on their online school, I think it's like $1,500. So $1,500. So cut that in half. That's over $700, like $750 that you'd have to pay for 6 weeks of lessons. And it's only $250. So thank you. Yes, a very good deal. And Tamashi, funny joke, Baroque. So let's see here. So let's go on to the next person. 23. Awesome. 23 is in the chat. Request, does this capture the quality of Rage well enough? What would you have done differently? Let's listen to it. Oh, I just heard this one earlier. This is a fun one. This is giving old school video game vibes. Like Game Boy and Game Boy Advanced vibes. I mean, since it was a bit more advanced sound libraries, maybe Game Boy SP. Advanced SP. I'm liking it. So we're going based off of my live stream a couple weeks ago about how to make angry sounding music. So let's see how many I got. You've got the Dark Valence. Dark Valence is down pat. Energy is good. Conflicting Energies is very good. You got rhythmic elements and slow-moving elements. That's good. I'm wondering how you came up with this idea. Sumo Fury is such a unique idea. What inspired you? There we go. This is giving video game vibes. There's a specific video game I'm trying to think of. Was it like the Men in Black Game Boy Color game? Now I'm dating myself. I am old. I'm very old. Compared to all you 17-year-olds in the chat, I'm only 28. All right, so I'm young, but I'm old at the same time. Excellent work, 23. All right, awesome. So you wanted to know if you got the vibe of anger and rage. You definitely got close, I'd say. There's one missing element here. All right, so remember, emotions and music, crash course, come down to valence, size, and energy. All right? These three things are tools that psychologists use to describe emotions. All right? Specifically, if you want to learn more, technically these two would both be bundled into just energy, but you can look into the circumplex model of affect. All right? The CMA basically says how dark or bright is the emotion. Size is how intense / overwhelming is the emotion. And how energizing / depleting / physically expressive is the emotion. There's a lot of different ways you could describe energy. So far, for your music, I heard these two really well. You got the energy good. You got nice rhythmic ideas, lots of accents. That creates the good sense of rage. Because you said specifically rage. There are lots of types of anger. Rage is a very active anger. You can be angry and pissed at someone, but not be pushed to movement. Rage, by definition, involves more of a spur to action. There's a desire to do something about your anger. That makes you rageful. All right? So you've got energy. You've got that. You've got the valence. Rage is a very dark emotion. The only one lacking was size. Rage is a very intense emotion. When you are enraged, you're not really able to focus on anything. It overwhelms all the other emotions. It overwhelms all of your higher order thinking. When you are in a rage, it's very difficult to say, oh wait, hold up, let me sit down and finish writing a letter to grandma. Or 1 second, I'm baking dinner and I gotta pull that out of the oven, or whatever you're doing. It's very hard to focus on anything else because right now you are in a rage. Now to symbolize that, to portray that with emotion, with music, you need size. Now there are lots of ways to build size. Starting off small is fine. You can do that, it's perfectly fine. But you need to eventually build size. So you could add some things you could try. Doubling bass line in octaves. You could try doubling the melody. Just adding more instruments. Adding, I should probably standardize these things. Adding more hits with the low percussion. There are lots of things you can do, but that's the only thing. I'd say I got an angry vibe from it, but I'm not sure if it was rage. And like I said, the main thing that kept it from being rageful was the size. I got more of a pissed vibe, like being ticked off at someone kind of vibe. Boss music, which is awesome, but it wasn't rageful. And I think the way you could do it is just double down on size. I think I actually left a comment because this was the piece that you had done for the challenge. I left a comment talking about, using the strings or brass sections to beef up the sound. If you use strings to just double the melody and the bass line into some more octaves, that adds way more size. You could add more choir. The choir would be really good for chordal texture. Brass is fantastic for creating size. I'd say that's the one thing. You did a very good job making it sound angry, but if you want that rage, you want that fury in the Sumo Fury, the size is where you're going to need to bulk that up. All right. Let's see here. Jack, someone remembers the Men in Black Game Boy Color game. Yes, I do remember it because it was like one of 2 video games I owned. Video games weren't really allowed in the house growing up. But then for my brother's birthday or something, he got a Game Boy from my aunt. And they gave us a bunch of my cousin's old games. And the Men in Black game was one of them. 23. What inspired me was I initially tried writing a theme for a wrestler walking down the aisle. Then the taiko drums made it sumo themed. Awesome! That's how some of the greatest pieces happen. Where you're just writing something and then it names itself. Shipshakart. It took me a while to realize that 23 means 23. Yep, it took me a little bit too. Sir Kensington asked, so Tom asked you about the string, push to real rage, get free feedback. Awesome, yes, awesome. So I'm glad that was helpful. Da 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 da. 20 on college. I wish it was awesome. So there we go. Thank you for the compliment. Okay, so that's thank you for the same. Awesome. So one for all right. So awesome. Yeah. So good feedback. Hopefully. Nice. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to like the stream. It does wonders for the algorithm. Let's see. Who's next? So 23. Excellent job. Shiv Shankar Roy, our last submission. All right. So Shiv Shankar, I already reamed, not necessarily, but I kind of wanted to say that. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Don't apologize for things before I've heard for it. Come on. You got to be your biggest fan. All right. Allow yourself the opportunity to impress me. All right. That's what it is. Allow yourself to have an emotional impact on your audience. All right. If you're starting the music and you're already apologizing for what it fails to do, you are robbing yourself of that opportunity. All right. So I already did that rant. I'm not going to go on to it again, but excellent work. We've got a couple very young composers here, starting much younger than I did. Do you have any tips for clarification in the orchestra? Tips for expressing certain experiences through music? Ooh, I can help with this one. How to properly use background and foreground in orchestra, which supports the melody. And last theme is by Flower. Awesome. So lots of questions here. Not sure we'll have a chance to answer all of them because I'm starting to feel my voice go a little sore. But let's listen to the music. Ooh. See? All right, I hate to do this. I hate to be the guy that paused, but that's my point exactly. Shiv Shankar, this is awesome. Note Performer is goated. Note Performer is really, really good. You don't have to apologize for having Note Performer because you didn't spend a bunch of money on professional libraries, all right? More and more, the best quality stuff is getting cheaper. Museo is like, what, $10 a month for professional grade sound libraries? And Note Performer is like, what, $100? And you can make payments on it? And amazing job. All right, so don't shoot yourself short, all right? So again, this is my point. It's awesome. Let's listen to it from the top, all right? Sorry. That's good. I'm getting some Stravinsky inspiration here. Rite of Spring. Dude, why is it unlisted? Make this public. Very helpful. Thank you. Shiv Shankar, where are you learning orchestration? Because this isn't me, is it? I don't think this is me. I don't think this is my lessons. Like, who's your teacher? What classes are you taking? What scores are you studying? You've got a very good brain for orchestration. That's all I'm going to say. Well, probably not all I'm going to say, but that's what I want to say right now. This is insane. '23. The brass sounds surprisingly good. That's the role model. That's like the motto of Note Performer. So much of the stuff sounds surprisingly good. Rachmaninoff, that's why. That was amazing. You guys, y'all, the depth of talent in this chat is insane. All right, I get blown away by every single piece that gets submitted. This is insane. All right, so it makes sense that you're starting Rachmaninoff. I hope I'm not making myself seem very ignorant here, but I was getting a lot of influences here from the late 19th century, early 20th century Russian nationalism. So composers like Rimsky-Korsakov, Shostakovich, maybe not Shostakovich, but Stravinsky especially. Stravinsky feels like a big influence here. But awesome work. Amazing work. All right, so very good job. Let's see. What feedback can I offer on this? Also, if that's not an ad for Note Performer, I don't know what is. Note Performer is a very powerful tool. Do you have any tips for clarification and orchestration? How to properly use background and foreground in orchestra, which supports a melody. All right, so those two. Let's tackle those two first. All right, so unfortunately, those are going to take a bit more time than we have left in this stream. So I'm going to say, go to tabletopcomposer.com, go to the Academy page, sign up for this class if you haven't already. Fundamental Arranging Techniques will explain clarity in design. It will explain how to get, basically answer your questions and then several more. So it's like, it has videos about background and foreground in orchestra and how to support the melody. It'll answer all your questions. So this class in particular, especially Orchestration 1, this is just instrumentation. All this does is introduce you to the different instruments, their range, their registers, their limitations, stuff like that. Orchestration 2 is where you actually learn the applicable knowledge and how to actually arrange music and things like that. How do you create clarity and separation between your background and foreground? How do you create balance between your instruments, things like that. So this is kind of my cheat code right now for the moment. I'm going to say just go study that. But your other questions, we can do that. Tips for expressing certain experiences through music, like seeing the sea for the first time. And the second to last theme is inspired by a flower garden. How will I express music? Unfortunately, I forgot to pay attention to that. I think it was beautiful. I think the whole thing was really well done. But let's talk about describing things with music. All right. So being descriptive with music. All right. The trick to bringing characters, experience, worlds, all that stuff to life is to very simply start by describing / studying your topic. All right, the more you know about your character, the more you know about your experience of seeing the sea for the first time, the better you can describe it, the more sources of inspiration you have. So if you were to spend some time describing what it feels like to see the ocean for the first time. If you can remember the first time you saw the ocean, or if you have never been to the ocean but you can imagine what it's like, spend as much time describing as you can. I'm a big fan of writing it down. All right, if you can do some creative writing or even just record yourself talking to your phone, do something to spend time physically describing it. Then go through your description, create a list of your favorite ideas / images from the description. So let's say you see the sea for the first time and you think, all right, it was mind-numbingly beautiful. That's one of the images you have. All right, we'll say, e.g., mind-numbing beautiful. Once you have created a list of your favorite images, your favorite little snippets from your description, the next thing is to brainstorm musical gestures for that imagery. A musical gesture is just a musical metaphor. So for mind-numbingly beautiful, some common ways you could do this, not common ways, but some things that you could consider. How can the harmony be used for it? How can your melody be used? How can your texture, which is the number and types of layers? How can your rhythm? How can your tempo? How can your dynamics? How can your articulations? How many is that? 4, 6, 7. I am missing one of them. There are 9 that I like to go with. Harmony, articulation, rhythm. Registers. How can the different registers, like whether it's high registers, low registers, be used to brainstorm it? And you just want to trust your instincts. So for example, a mind-numbingly beautiful idea. Harmony. And this could be register as well. It could be texture. It could be a lot of different things. I just say high pedal point. So if you had just the strings playing a nice long high C or high E or whatever you want to have it be up there. There's a nice high note just holding underneath it. Creating kind of this sense of like being stuck in time. A stationary harmony. And then rather than having any chords, you just have that long held note. And then the melody enters. That's a musical gesture. That's an idea that you had of how can I portray this idea with music. And the way you come up with these, like I said, is you have to follow this order. Spend time describing your topic. Is it a character? Is it an experience? Whatever it is, spend time describing it, studying it. Create a list of your favorite little images of what. So if you had spent a paragraph writing about an emotional experience, I go through with a highlighter and I highlight, oh, I like this line. I like that line. I like this. These feel like they could be musical to me. And then for each one, brainstorm as many as you can. Like I said, this idea of mind-numbingly beautiful, just a high pedal point. And then, of course, if you want to do that, once you've done that, gestures are just something that you can add to the whole valence, size, energy model that I shared earlier. So if we were to do emotions / experiences equal valence plus size plus energy plus gestures. Now, the cool thing about all of this is do you know where you can learn all of this stuff? You can learn all of it in my Emotions and Music class, which goes live Monday. New cohort. You have classmates that you can talk with. You get to meet with me once a week. Detailed feedback on all your homework. It will be details and in-depth. You will learn everything you need to learn not only how to portray emotions, but of course how to create gestures. And this entire process of how do you create, because I do have methods. I do have methods for what it means to write down how to create your description. I have methods and tools for teaching you how to create a good description. I see a couple of my former students in here right now, and some of you who have signed up for the class that starts Monday. So check it out. You will learn all this stuff, but hopefully if you can't make it, you've got the basics here, right? So that checks it out. I am starting to lose my voice a little bit. Let's check the comments, but I think we're gonna be done. I know some of you submitted pieces late. I am very sorry, but unfortunately, I'm not gonna keep going. My throat is starting to hurt, so I'm gonna stop early. But next time, again, remember if you want to submit, you can submit. Next time I'll do these once a month. Don't forget about the competition that will be going on all throughout the month of June. There are prizes. For those of you who forgot to submit pieces, or you submitted late, I'm sorry. I don't feel that guilty though, because I do these frequently, and I know for a fact that each of you who submitted late, I've reviewed so many of your own music already. So just be a little patient, all right? Let's see here. Let's see here. Anything? So got some good questions. All right. Sorry, Tamashi, not happening this time. I'm gonna call it short. Like I said, I don't feel too guilty because I know for a fact, Tamashi, you've submitted pieces to almost every review, so you've gotten good value. I'm sure you're doing well. I'll see it next time though. And there are other opportunities as well. So if you have pieces that you want to submit for the competition, submit that for competition. And there's the challenge for the live streams for the emotions and stuff. So glad to help, Tim. Thank you, 23. And awesome. So yes, good luck with the competition, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the stream. It's very helpful for the channel. And yeah, I will see you all next week in the next stream. All right. Thank you very much. I'll see you all. Have a good one.